them to my YouTube page instead of Facebook Live. Because it is letting me connect to YouTube, I think.
I see I see you live on YouTube.
Which I haven't done before, but it is possible. We can send them to my YouTube page instead of Facebook Live. It is letting me connect to YouTube, I think. Yep, we are live on YouTube.
I see
So
live on YouTube.
Which I haven't done before, but it is possible. We can send them to my YouTube page instead of Facebook Live. So we are letting me connect to YouTube, I think. Yep, we are live on YouTube.
I see live on YouTube.
Done before, but so it is possible. We can send to my
You have to turn that down or you're never going to talk.
So we are letting me connect to YouTube, I think. Yep, we are live. So it is possible. Okay, so
Turn it down or you're never going to talk.
Yeah, we keep hearing you, what you were saying.
Okay, can you still hear me, guys?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and now we're
Yes.
not, you can't hear me on, I mean, okay, so yeah, we're good to go, I think.
Have you sent the invitation for it on?
I'm going to put the invitation on Facebook and tell people to come to the YouTube page to view the TalkBack. And then it'll be recorded. So when we're done, I will post the recording onto Facebook. So people can watch it on YouTube and we'll do it on Facebook later. So yeah, we're good to go. Basically, let me just tell people on Facebook.
All righty.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. It happens.
No problem.
Gotta love technology.
We lost Julie.
Yeah, we did lose. No, she's back. There she goes.
We'll get it together, guys, or I'll get it together. But we are live and streaming. Let's see. All right. I'm doing it this. Okay. Okay, guys.
Are we all set?
Yep, I believe so. I am. I just shared it on the Facebook page so people will know where to find us. And so you guys can start chatting and
Oh, come on.
What's wrong? You having issues, Juan? He froze as soon as he said that. And Tina's back on mute.
oh, hang on.
Okay, she knows she's on mute.
Yeah, because I was coughing.
Ah.
I didn't want to cough into the screen.
We appreciate that.
So we should be good to go, guys, whenever you are ready.
Okay, it just looks like Juan is frozen.
Mhm.
So he'll
Uh,
be back. Oh, there he
it is.
goes. But then Julie is gone. I know she said her internet was going in and out.
Apparently mine is too.
Okay,
So
well,
we're
we'll
gonna-
we're gonna move right through this because this is
I was
Yes,
gonna
we are.
say,
we
we're
do.
having a party tonight, but it's all good. We're just gonna make it work.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna do
Yeah.
this. Let's go.
We're gonna
Yep.
do this. So just to introduce everybody, we got the cast and crew of Bourbon at the Border. And we have Sharitha Terry, who is our stage manager. We have Julie Crawford, who is our assistant stage manager. We have Juan Eisler, who played Tyrone Washington. We have Joy Bryant. You can't see her, but she's here, and she played Rosa St. John. We've got Tina Morris Anderson, who played Mae Thompson. I am Natasha Jackson. I was the director. And then we are missing Charlie, who was played by Joseph Callender. He is on the front lines. He is a lieutenant with the Raleigh Fire Department. So he could not be here with us because he evidently has more important things to do with keeping folks safe. But he and I did chat a little bit. And so we'll make sure that he gets a video of this. But I do want to give special thanks to Joseph. He's also a former Marine. So he's just all about being out there and helping people, and we want him and everyone else to be safe. So salutes to you, Joseph, and thank you. And Lauren, thank you so much for having us and wanting to do this with the cast. This show was really profound, I think, for all of us and those who had a chance to come see it. I'm thankful to Pearl Cleavage for writing the play Bourbon at the Border. And for those who don't know, the play is basically about Freedom Summer 1964 and the long-term impact of those who sacrificed back then. And it takes us to 1995, and we meet these two couples, and we just kind of learn their background, and we just learn everything that has happened to them as a result of their sacrifices. Bourbon at the Border was very integral because it touches on PTSD, mental health, domestic violence, sexual assault. We learn about relationships. Have I missed anything? Voters' rights, inequalities. And it was a heavy show. And for me, the more the show came together, the more challenging the weight I felt of the message, that the responsibility of the message that we had to send out through this production. And so I wanted to ask cast and crew members, and you can go in whatever order you want. Did you feel any type of responsibility in going into this show? And if so, what was it? Juan, I'll start with you.
It's gonna let the ladies go first, but okay. Yes, I did. With my character, I felt a responsibility to my uncle because of the character that I was playing, who was a Vietnam vet. And so my uncle is a Vietnam vet, and there wasn't a lot mentioned about my character's Vietnam days. So I wanted to bring out more about his character's background, and what happens to veterans in Vietnam, and especially Black veterans of Vietnam, and what they go through, what they went through when they first came back to the States. So that was one of the responsibilities that I felt that I had to portray to the audience with this project.
Mm-hmm. Joy, what about you? Did you feel any type of responsibility in playing Rosa?
I did. As the supporting female, I felt a responsibility to portray the role of a friend, because I was Mae's best friend. So I did sort of the research that would allow me to understand what someone like May experienced and what she needs from a best friend. And although my character was the hilarious one, the funny bone, I didn't want to take away from the real message of the play, which was, the serious themes that you mentioned already. So I had to sort of walk a tightrope between having this jokester persona versus someone who is very supportive of the real tragedy that's happening.
Mhm. Tina, I shouldn't even have to ask you, but you played May Thompson, and so yeah, what responsibility, did you feel in playing this role and portraying May?
A lot of responsibility, because I realized that there are and there were multiple, many, a lot of women whose experience was similar to that of May. Even if you were to have even bits and pieces of it, but still that in reality May existed in real life, whether she had that name or not. And so it was important to me that the story be told, because so often when we hear about Freedom Summer, we hear about, of course we hear about the violence that took place and the hardworking students, but there are also other stories that aren't told. And I think a lot of May's character speaks to those stories that weren't told, and that were maybe whispered about, or maybe not even shared at all, because as it turns out, May did not share her story once she left. So I had a lot of responsibility.
Sharitha, did you, as a stage manager, a totally different perspective, did you feel any responsibility in that?
I felt like my responsibility was more to the cast and crew, just for making sure that everybody was in a safe space, and that they knew they were in a safe space. And regardless to whether the emotions were like up or down or whatever we were covering, that everybody had an opportunity to know that in the time and the space that you're in, your emotions, you are entitled to your emotions. You're entitled to have somebody listen to you. But just to be, I was just trying to be, just the responsibility was to the cast and crew.
Gotcha. Julie, do you have anything as our assistant stage manager? I think Julie is frozen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can't.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we lost.
She's semi-frozen.
She's, yes, semi-frozen. Okay, so I want to ask the actors, what message, and it could have been different every night, what message did you try to convey to the audience as you were entering every night? You did 9 shows. Did you say, okay, tonight it's going to be this, or is it going to be the same every night? Was it based off energy from the audience? What type of message did you feel like you were trying to convey?
I think
Juan?
because
There you go, Tina.
I'll save you, Juan. I think because there was so much involved in May, that, and also from having to play off of other characters, especially the relationship between Charlie and May. Is that his name? Yeah, Charlie and May. Yeah. That we pretty much had to try to attempt to do the same, follow the same path. It might have been slightly different every night, but to still try to follow that same path, so that you don't throw off the person who's interacting with you.
Or the person calling the show.
Oh, the person, yeah, exactly. Or the person calling the show. You are right. Like I said, that's why eventually Sharitha and I, she said, as long as you get to this word, I'll be okay. Because May talked a lot. And so she said, just make sure you say this word and I can go on. So yes, I couldn't really deviate much with May. She had a lot going on.
Juan?
just love calling that name, don't you?
Because you know what, you're center on my screen, so I just want.
Well, Sharitha made the mistake of saying none of my lines mattered to anything she was calling. So that was the wrong thing. Anybody that has ever been in a play with me, Aya Wallace, I'm sure is somewhere looking at this, nodding her head right now. Anybody that's ever been in anything with me knows that is not what you tell me. Yes, and Tina will agree with that. It's a very heavy play, and I had some light moments, and so my light moments I would try to make even lighter in some cases. And so if I had the opportunity to make those light, and I had the opportunity to break the actors, and every now and then I would do it. I wouldn't take it out of context of what the show was about, but I'm gonna find me a word to make the actors, break. And then my acting sister, Morris Anderson, if I can break her, then I've accomplished something. So as far as what I did every night, though, I did try to stay pretty much within where we were supposed to be, especially in the second act. There was no way of getting around.
Yeah, definitely.
But first act it was a lot lighter, so it was a lot more fun with that. And then I got an audience response with the first act, they felt like they were in the living room with us, and so that kind of fed, that was early on in the run. So that kind of fed me to say, okay, well, let me build off of that. And if I'm making them feel like they're with us, then let me make them feel like they're with us. So.
Right, throughout. So Joy, what about you? Did you feel any type of responsibility or message you were trying to convey through your character every night?
Yes. Well, I felt like my character was bringing hope and healing through my acting. And as a pharmacist, we always think about, how can we heal? But in mental health, one of the most important things that we always think about is having a support system. And for me, it was portraying that I was a true friend to May, even in spite of my conflict with her marital choice or her decision to stay in a marriage. I had to be a loyal friend to her. And that was important to me to convey how important friendship is, and that sometimes when we have a difference of opinion, we still have to support each other. And I think that is one of the things that's very important in helping us to overcome depression, mental health issues, just knowing that someone cares. And so I had to portray my loyalty to May, even, in the thick of the controversy.
And I just want to add.
Tim had a question.
What's Tim's question?
So I'm sorry, add what you're going to add, and then I'll ask Tim's question.
Okay, I was just going to say, myself being a stage manager and thinking about what Juan said, I did not envy Sharitha at all, because him and Joseph and feeding off of each other and trying to call those cues.
Yeah.
I did not envy her. There were times I was in the lobby and I would hear, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember that. And I'm just like, and I would peek in and I would kind of see them cutting up a little bit. And so, it was probably best that
I
they
learned
tried
to brace
stay.
myself. Yes. Yeah, if I could just say, I learned to brace myself for whenever they walked in that scene, when they come in together, I just had to stand there and wait, because I didn't know what was going to be said when they walked in together.
Yeah.
Before you speak, Lauren, come on, Joseph isn't here, so I got to defend us. Joseph and I, when we get on the stage together, it's comedy now. It is comedy, and we know our lines. And because we know our lines, anything is liable to come out. As I said, Sharitha said she made the mistake. She said, I don't have any cues on your lines.
I did not.
Okay. Then whatever's about to come out, then we're about to have some fun. And the first act, we had one scene where it's just me and him. And he looked at me and I looked at him. I said, we doing this? He said, yep. And I said, okay, let's do this. And that's what happened. So, hey, Lauren, you can go ahead.
You're too much, Juan. Tim wants to know, was there ever a time that you had to separate yourself from your characters because the show is so personal? And someone, I guess this person must be involved with the show, said she had to brace herself. Heart.
Tina?
I was gonna say, I'll say,
So,
I'll say for Juan doing the Lift Every Voice and Sing, I definitely had to sort of try to turn that off and separate from that moment, but it was really hard. And as far as it being personal, I mean, the cast and the crew know I don't really care for Charlie's character. Some of the interactions between Charlie and May were personal, and yes, so I definitely had to separate myself to keep from punching Joseph, either one in the face. Definitely.
We had a violent stage manager.
she did. She was. I would say. Thanks, Sharitha. I felt protected. So, but for me, because Juan, take the mask off. But for me, I did. There was absolutely a separation that had to take place because, in a way, it was like, for how long did we do this? For 3 weeks. I had 2 marriages. I had my real one, and then I had my one on stage. So with that, and Joseph and I talked about the fact how literally and preparing for each show, we exchanged wedding rings that were not our real rings, so we could actually separate our characters. And then at the end of each show, we took them off. So yeah, it was important to do that.
I said
on YouTube, somebody has written, I can't tell who it is, but I'm sorry, I'm reading. They're your biggest fan, Juan and Tina, and their question was, would you say the show is trying to make a commentary more so on the effects of racism in the Jim Crow South or on mental illness and PTSD?
Oh.
Yes, definitely. Well, actually, I don't think it was. I think the racism in the South, in the Jim Crow, it was doing a lot of. I don't think it was really doing a lot with PTSD. So Tasha came up with the song list, and she gave me the song list and said the song she wanted, and I added some more songs to it. And originally she was going to have Ray Charles singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing" to intro the second act, and I listened to it, and it was sorry, Ray, it was garbage. And I was like, Tasha, I got an idea. And I was like, I think I want to sing it, which I usually don't volunteer to just open my mouth and sing something. And she was like, okay. And then I started thinking, and I was like, I think I want to do a little bit more. And I didn't tell anybody in the cast what I was going to do. And oh, by the way, I was a sound designer too, so I had some liberty
Yes.
to do some extra stuff. So, so I said I got some other stuff that I want to do. So I think it was what, a day or two before we opened. It was the first time you guys had heard everything that was in there. And so usually when people hear lift every voice and sing, there's no interruption. I don't care whether you like it or not. It's just like the national anthem. People don't interrupt it. And I just remember the stories that my uncle told me about how people were treated when they came back from Vietnam, but especially Black people were treated when they came back. And then you had the Agent Orange, you had the PTSD of remembering and thinking about the guns and the bombs, and you didn't have the actual real training of going through what is it? Going through the am I frozen? Okay, no. I thought I was frozen for a second. Okay. I mean, I am frozen, but no.
Let it go.
You didn't go through boot camp. You didn't go through boot camp and stuff, and you didn't go through any of that. You just thrown over there. And so I wanted to convey all of that because I don't think a lot of people realize it if you just read the book or just see the play. But Tyrone, Vietnam really affected him because the first act, he always talks about it. And it just stays in his vocabulary all the time. And it really bothered him, but he makes light of it. He makes jokes about it. And so I was like, this is a real problem for him. And so I wanted to bring that out. And so by doing that, showed that part as well, because it's not shown enough. So,
But
okay, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
I was gonna say, but while it wasn't about Tyrone's PTSD, it did show you Charlie's PTSD. And then maybe a glimpse, not really maybe, but a little bit of a glimpse into May's PTSD, but it was definitely about Charlie's PTSD.
I had something to add. I think the question was it about the Freedom Summer or was it about mental health? Well, for me, I think that it really portrayed the relationship with going through trauma, the violence that was the trauma that triggered the mental health illness. Because I don't think they exist in silos. And so because of the violence that took place, in individuals who were probably perfectly normal, college students, young, but because of what they went through, this was the result of turning a perfectly normal guy into a murderer. And so I think it was a marriage of the two and demonstrating cause and effect.
And I just want to add to that because Joseph and I were talking this morning, and one of the things that he was talking about mentioned with Charlie and PTSD. So it depends if you're looking at PTSD just from a war perspective, but PTSD overall. Talking about PTSD in the African American community, and I think that we had an opportunity with this show to demonstrate how we look upon mental illness and things such as PTSD. I know, and it was one, and so Tyrone had the line, saying, well, what kind of crazy are you? And people would laugh, but I had people come to me afterwards and, they're like, I felt it was funny, but I felt bad about laughing because they understood the way he delivered the line was funny, but the truth behind the line is a whole different component, especially within the African American community. We do not deal with mental illness, PTSD type of things. So that was one of the things with Charlie. And the ironic thing is when Juan approached me about wanting to to sing Lift Every Voice. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then he started talking to me about how he wanted to do it. And I was like, I just blocked this piece with Joseph, and there was just this energy that started to happen. And as he's explaining to me, and I'm like, yes, and then he'll come out in the background and he'll start walking, and we'll kind of see these worlds collide. And it was just very organic. I feel that what Juan started when he said, hey, can I do this? And then how it, came about. And then when he added those other components to it, it was just like, whoa. And I know we need to move on, but I want to have Juan kind of speak on, because we know that as he's singing Lift Every Voice, we've got Nixon, we've got the Vietnam War, we've got these rednecks saying all these things, and he's singing this song. And there was a comment during one of the performances or after where someone thought it was too much going on. And our response was, that is everyday life for an African American, especially an African American male. So it was just that one piece just imploded to something so much bigger and such a bigger message, and what we within the African American community really need to do to try to not just help our soldiers, but help one another who are dealing with mental health illness.
And I think one thing that I picked up was this thing called healthcare disparities. And we heard about Charlie's experience dealing with the therapist while he was in-house in the mental institution, and how he felt disconnected and treated. And then we go back historically to all of the things that happened to African Americans that were unjust, which sort of led us to have this fear of the health system. And it could be one of the reasons why we are reluctant to seek help, especially when it's dealing with a psychological imbalance. We think, and then if you go back to slavery, we were taught to be strong no matter what, no matter how hot the sun is, no matter how tired you are, you keep pushing. And so that was just not a part of our fabric. And so I think when you look at all of those factors, it was a very, very strong message from a historical perspective as well.
And there's a huge distrust with the African American community and therapists and anything with the system. And again, this is something that came up with my conversation with Joseph this morning, where what are we looking at with COVID-19? And we're hearing about the disproportionate number of African Americans that are getting the virus. And we're hearing talks of doctors wanting to test out certain drugs in areas that are heavily populated, with African Americans. So it's kind of, the more things change, the more they stay the same type of situation. So I do you have any other questions that have come through, Lauren?
Play to Succeed. She said she's the one who said that she's Juan and Tina's biggest fan, and that you would know who she is. My question had to do with the health disparity, the healthcare disparity, and COVID-19, and it's so interesting to me, because this is one of the last plays that had a full run through, and we didn't know then that we'd be sitting here now in the middle of this health crisis. But I think that play spoke so much to what we're going through now. And I guess my question for all of you guys is, as you've gotten some time and distance from the play and you've been able to reflect on the experience more, have you gleaned any more insight into the play or these characters now that you're a little bit separated from it?
I will say, I think at some points I'm still trying to separate from it, Lauren. I texted Natasha maybe like a week or two ago, and I should have told Juan, but I was watching NCIS New Orleans, and it was about a Caucasian officer shooting an unarmed African-American male. And at his memorial service, they sung Lift Every Voice and Sing. It was the last scene of the show. And I actually had to turn it off. Like I couldn't get through that part of the show. And literally, like I felt like my whole body locked up and I just could not watch it. So I feel like I'm still trying to separate parts of it from, thankfully, Juan's comedy helped a lot, but I do feel like I'm still trying to separate some things from it.
I had something that was really interesting after the fact. I thought about similarities that I have personally with my character Rosa. And, you know, so Rosa is this free spirit woman who is not really emotionally attached to Tyrone, but he's a man who fills her, satisfies her needs, not only physically, but, you know, he's someone she can depend on, and he, you know, he's her companion. Well, in certain respects, she's sort of a feminist because she's independent. She makes it on her own. She works, you know, she has several jobs. And then who am I? I'm Joy, who works. I'm single. I've never been married. I'm independent, sort of a feminist. And so I think that we shared those similarities. And I think it was, for me, the message was that it's okay for women to be independent and not dependent on a man, because, you know, it came out of her character that she was entrepreneurial, you know, she was bright. I mean, she wasn't of, you know, a higher socioeconomic status, but she was a very bright woman who knew how to make ends meet. And so for me, I think that the message was that it's okay for women to work hard and be independent and take care of themselves and learn the balance of having men in their lives in you know, for their purposes. So that was great for me.
I because of everything that's going on now with those with Charlie and May and Tyrone, and there was a time when I was wondering why they didn't seek help, but with everything that's going on now, I ended up saying the same thing. And then it kind of hit me and was like, you know, this play was set in the 90s and here we are in 2020, and it's still, like Asha said, it's still the same thing. We don't seek help for the same reasons. Whether you go back to the Tuskegee experiment, where we were injected with syphilis just to see what it would do, or whether it was our upbringing, especially, like, I call it, one of the things I call it is the East Coast, North Carolina East Coast syndrome. Black men are taught to be strong, and whatever it is, you don't cry and you don't ask for help. You deal with it on your own. So here Tyrone is going through everything he's going through. Here Charlie is going through everything he's going through. And even May, everything she went through. And none of them sought any help, you know, any professional help. Well, every day I came off stage, because I told myself the first time, I said, I got this. I'm gonna do this Lift Every Voice saying, I'm gonna come off stage, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be all right. I'm come off that stage, and I'm glad I didn't have to go back on for two more scenes, because I was no good. Tasha was back there. Tasha would not come. She did not come to first act. She would come intermission. And I'd be like, why are you here? She's like, I'm here for you. And I'm like, I don't need you here. And I would come off that stage and just bawl. One day I came off, and the dog tags I was wearing belonged to Sharitha. They belonged to Sharitha. She had them because she bought them for her brother, who is in the service. And can I tell it? And she bought them because she bought them the first time he was deployed. And every time he was deployed, she would pull them out and wear them or have them with her. And that was her way of guaranteeing he would come back. And he always did. So she allowed me to wear those. And I would give them back to her after every time I sang. And one of those times when I sang, after every time I'd walk up to the booth where she was, and I would give them back to her. One of those times I gave them back to her, I couldn't make it out of the booth. And I don't know what her light cue was, but she just stood there and held me until I got myself together. So that's something that Black men just don't normally do. You're just supposed to hold it in. But even May's character was just supposed to hold that in for 30-something years. And it's just something that Black folk are just supposed to do. You know, and I don't, you know, even through slavery times, we were just supposed to get beat and get over it. So, you know, that's something I had to come to a realization with dealing with the play, because it didn't come on me during the play. It was just like, okay, it's Act 2 is coming up. We get ready to do y'all get ready to get something, but just didn't dawn on me that, you know, maybe if they had gotten some help, maybe things would have been different. So,
Tina, you want to add anything to that?
So I guess for me, especially when I got a better understanding of what May was all about, I was concerned that I was going to be more personally affected by her character. I remember telling Juan, okay, if I'm not back, meaning if I'm still May at the end of the show, you need to come and snap me out of it. So I was surprised at how easily I was able to go in and out and in and out. And I think what helped is just the realization that beneath it all was just a certain degree of strength that May's character has. That was the reason why over the course of these many years, because when you think about it, her trauma was just as great, if not greater in some ways than Charlie's was, but she was still able to maintain. She was still able to do many of the things that Joy was talking about in terms of hold down a job, take care of herself, and support her husband, who was in and out of mental hospitals. And not break until that one moment you finally see her break. So if anything, I'm just reminded daily, whenever I think about the character, of just the degree of strength. And if anything, it's just demonstrative of the level of the degree of strength that Black women have possessed over time. You know, when you look at slavery, you look at Jim Crow, and you look now and you see even what they're dealing with today, that there is just a certain degree, a certain depth of strength that Black women in particular, I'm not saying other women don't have it, but because of what our families have gone through over time, that it has just strengthened our resilience over time.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and I think that spills over into our working lives as well. Because sometimes many of us, and I've had conversations with some of my colleagues, we feel that as Black professional women, we have to be 200 times better than our counterparts to get the same recognition, same respect. And so I think that piggybacks off what Tina was saying, that, you know, we have to be strong, we have to keep pushing and prove that we are just as good or better.
Yeah, I would agree. As I segue over to the next question, one of the
Natasha, hang on, before you change the thought, before you change the topic, Tim said to Juan, God broke you. And you brought him to his knees, and that's powerful. That's what Tim wanted me to share with you.
Wow. Yeah, right. So one of the things for me, and I'm still trying to separate from the show, and I don't know that I ever will. This was my directorial debut, and it's just ironic of how the show has impacted not just me, but the audience members. And literally 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine who did not get a chance to see the show was like, hey, one of my friends seen the show. She's still talking about it. She's like, we're out. And this was, you know, she's like, we were doing whatever, we were talking, and she's still talking about this show. And so one of the question that I have for everyone is, were you surprised by the audience reaction after seeing the show? Or was it what you expected? For me, I can tell you, I have never in my life had so many strange people cry on me. Because people would come out the lobby and they would just grab me, and they would just, I'm talking about grown men, and they would just be crying, and one man snotting on me, and I'm like, oh, this was before COVID, obviously, and I'm just like, okay. And it was just constant. I remember the one woman, she was bawling so hard she couldn't, she just like gave me the nod and just had to get out the theater overall. And you know, sometimes Sharitha was like, well, who was that person? Sharitha, I don't know who that person was. They just needed a hug. So and so was there any, I seen Tina, you were shaking your head, no, you weren't surprised. Did you expect the reactions that you got after people seeing the performance?
I expected a reaction
Mhm.
of some type. It is not the kind of play that you can just kind of sit there and not be affected at some point.
Mhm.
You know, whether it doesn't even have to be May, you know, through somebody that you were affected. So the tears from some I would expect, just because it tugs on different strings, and some people it's because of guilt, some people it's just because of sadness, some people because it's bringing back memories of something from their own personal lives. So I expected a reaction.
I don't know if you're going to ask this one particular question, and I don't know if I should wait until you ask this one particular question to respond, or should I respond now?
Go for it. Just go for it.
Okay. Well, I had someone tell me they had eye sweat. That was funny. I had never heard that one before. Which of course we know is tears. And I was like, who? Eye sweat. Okay. And that was that. Like I said, that was hilarious. But I had one person from my church, as I was coming out for the beginning of scene 2, say they were joking. And they said, now that's the clown right there. As I was walking out in the darkness for scene 2. That's the clown, that's the crazy one right there. And I seen act 2, excuse me, as act 2. And when it started, they did not say another word. So I think people thought they were going to get in act 2 what they got in act 1. And from, like I said, we didn't ease into it. It was like this. We hit you hard from ground zero. And it was like, and I just remember, and I was prepared for everything because, well, I thought I was prepared for everything. Let me rephrase that. Because, you know, as I said, when we did the Lift Every Voice and Sing, and to have, well, I'm just, Lauren, I'm just going to say it in here, to have, after I finished the 4th line, to have shut up nigger in the middle come out of the speakers was strong. But when it gets to the point where you're hearing the rednecks in one side and Nixon telling his lies about we're one America and the silent majority on the other side, and then the bombs coming out from Vietnam. And as I'm doing this, I'm looking out at the audience for support while I'm trying to sing, and nobody's looking back at me. Everybody in the audience is looking down like this.
I was looking at you.
That was huh?
I was looking at you.
No, you won't. You was up there like this. Stop lying. Stop telling lies. You was up in the booth like this. I don't know what show you were calling, but you was up in the booth like this. Every night like this. That felt strange. It felt so empty because it was, and I was staying in character, so I was hunching my shoulders and I was hearing the bombs and hearing all this stuff, and then it was kind of like I'm looking to the audience for support, and nobody's looking back at me. Nobody's there. And that's really when I felt what my uncle, had told me. It was like, wait, is nobody gonna help me? And nobody would look up. Nobody would look at me at all. Everybody just looked down, like as if to say, kind of like what Martin Luther King said, like silence is worse than not either being for me or against me. Not saying anything is worse than saying something. And they were all just like this. And it was like, well, dang, okay. So that was probably the biggest surprise for me doing that. And then, the script was, I love the script. I got asked several times. Add some of them curse words you put in. No, that was all it was. I didn't add anything. I just read the script. And according to law, I'm supposed to say what's on the printed page. And that's what I said. It said MF right there, and I said it.
Why you didn't add anything to the script?
Well, I did, but it won't no cussing. I added some crazy words, but it won't no cussing. I don't think. Well, Aretha, hush.
Oh, gosh.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
See that why we needed Sharitha to stage manage this and not me?
I plead the fifth. Oh, but look, y'all what? Sharitha, let's tell it. Let's not act like Tasha wasn't the stage manager.
Ooh.
Oh, I tried. You cannot take the stage manager out of me, and you know what, Lauren, they would snitch on me. So whenever I would slip a little bit into stage manager mode, Sharitha, you hear what she said? And I'd be like, why don't y'all shut up? I didn't mean it. They would snitch on me. They would snitch.
Riri, get her. Riri, get her. Get her. Riri, she over here. She trying to tell, and I wish Julie was still here. Julie, y'all know what we got to get to Julie. I'm sorry Julie couldn't be here, but poor Julie. We ran Julie ragged. We got to give her. She did her job with the props because
you know the maid one. You mean the maid?
Oh yeah,
I know,
did
right?
say that a couple of times. But you know what? She's not on here. But let me say this, and I told her someone actually one night after one of the performances, and they were just raving about the show, and they said even the lady that kept coming out, and she knew exactly what she was doing, and she was focused. And I mean, they loved watching Julie come out to do what Julie does. She is an amazing ASM. She's one of my go-tos, and I don't worry. She's got it. She is, hats off to her. So Julie is amazing. I know, our time is getting really short, but
I actually have a question, Natasha, for
okay.
Joy and Tina. Because Joy, you were talking about the women's empowerment piece and the feminism piece, which until you just said that in this conversation, that was another layer of this play. I think in good plays, good literature, you just keep finding layers the more you revisit it. And so that's another layer of this play that I had not thought about. And I think that too, that theme resonates so much today in the era of Me Too, because in the time that in the time that of the Freedom Summer, as a woman who's been assaulted or raped or abused, you're not going to speak up the same way you're going to speak up now that these women are feeling more empowered to come forward and speak up now. And so I guess as you were doing the play, thinking about the feminism piece, how does Me Too and Time's Up and all of these women's empowerment themes play into this? Because these are two pretty strong female characters in this show.
So looking at, because as you were talking, I was asking myself if something similar as to what happened to May with the whole rape and the assault had happened now, would things be different? And it would really depend on where it took place. So while the unfortunate piece is there are still areas of the country where, say that happened, and it could, and if May were to have pressed charges, the outcome of that is not necessarily definite in terms of what would happen, in terms of how much power she felt that she had. So my hope is that it would be less likely to happen, but it is still possible that it's going to happen. We still have stories of women who they're pulled over by a police officer, even in the big city, and things happen. So it would be a little bit better, but not necessarily non-existent in terms of what happened to May if it happened today.
Think about the Cosby case. All of these women who came forth years later, and they were scrutinized in the public and in the court. Well, why did you wait so many years? And so I think we are of the expectation now, if you speak up if something happens, why did you wait? But that this was about the same time. These women were assaulted about the same time that May was in the story. And so I think it's a parallel of the mindset of the woman and her role in society, and how she doesn't want to wear the scarlet letter for speaking up and crying out. It's just different. I think things are different now, and I think there are more resources available, and people feel more comfortable speaking out today than they did 30 years ago or 40 years ago. But there still could be some apprehension, I think. Like Tina said, it depends on where it took place.
And then too, thinking about what's going on now, I'm sorry, Joy, is that still, you think about it, there were two crimes that took place. One, she was raped, and then two, she was assaulted by Charlie. So it is possible that she might not press charges, because by doing so, Charlie's going to get arrested, and Black men in the justice system, he's going to go to jail. So that may be a reason why she might not speak up today, because it would mean losing Charlie. So
unless she's that independent woman like Rosa, who knows, she's going to make it, she'll work.
Well, that's true.
She'll make it.
Tyrone's just lost. Sorry, Ty.
Yeah, it was great.
So,
great.
So Lauren, I know we have to wrap this up. I want to acknowledge Julie, our assistant stage manager. I want to acknowledge Jamal Kearney, who was our costumer, who really, we sat down, we discussed, the time frame of this, and really understood and was very adamant. I don't know if anybody who's seen the show picked up on Tyrone's members only jacket, but he's like, I gotta get him a members only jacket. So I have to acknowledge him, but then we also had Ryan Norris, who did our lights, and Matt, I can't think of Matt's last name, who came in and helped with our video. We had Xander Barnes, we had Jenny Robinson that stepped in, we had Axel, who did our set. He came in with his crew and threw our set up in like a day. We had Lydia, who designed the set and did prototypes. We had Thomas that came in and brought up the rear. Sharitha, I joke, it's not a joke, I call her my ride or die, but Sharitha stepped in not just as the stage manager, but she helped with costumes. She helped with dressing the set. Our mama was helping. Thank you, moms. So this was such a cohesive group, and everyone jumping in. What was that one?
And Greg.
Greg, yes. Greg, yes, I had messaged him today. Greg was my assistant director till he got cast in another show. But Greg was also phenomenal. He did a lot of work. He helped us, you know, he helped in so many different areas. This show, we laughed, we cried. I've never cried so much throughout the rehearsal process, a show, so many emotions. But I also want to thank Tim Locklear and North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater for putting on this show and being brave enough to put on this show. The thing about Interact is what we call them. Interact is that they are a theater that they aren't afraid to put on something that's a little bit challenging. And they are a small theater with a big heart is kind of how I see it. They're that small theater back in the corner, but they have the heart of some of the biggest theaters around here. And they will put on shows such as Bourbon at the Border and By the Way, Meet Vera Stark, just as quick as they'll put on Freaky Friday and Be More Chill and Gay Card. And so right now, Interact, like a lot of theaters, they are dealing with the financial challenges of having to be closed down because of COVID-19. And so I do want to encourage everyone who's watching that if you can go to nract.org and donate so that we can make sure that once everything is back up and running, this is one of the theaters that does survive this time frame. So please just kind of donate what you can, whether it's $2 or $5, $1,000, what have you, so that we can continue to put on shows like this that get people talking, have conversations that maybe normally would not take place. Because I feel like some of these shows, such as Bourbon on the Border, is an opportunity to have conversations. And that's what Interact does. So I just want to put that out there. North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater, Tim, thank you for going there and allowing me. There was just anything I wanted to do with the show. Tim was just like, okay. He never told me no. And there initially I had some out there stuff I wanted to do, and then I kind of changed my mindset. But but just want to acknowledge and really thank them for that.
And I just want to piggyback on that, Natasha, because one show I am so excited about for next season. I'm very excited about North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater's season next season. It is a strong season. And they are doing the regional premiere of American Son, which is a show that I love, and it will continue the conversations in our community like Bourbon has had, like By the Way Vera Stark has had, and it'll continue those conversations. So I'm really hoping that people will consider buying tickets to their season next season, because it's a really strong season, and people have to see American Son. That's
Yes, and I believe it's Bernard Smith that's going to be directing that one. So yeah, so who's phenomenal, as we all know. So so yeah, definitely it's nract.org. So definitely get out there and support them, because like I said, they're that small theater with a huge heart. And they will go there where other places will not go.
I agree. I agree. So I do want to, I said I was going to make an announcement, and my friend Soyini's not here, but a few years ago, I had a life-changing experience, and I always credit Soyini with this. At my son's school, the YWCA sponsored something called study circles, which I signed up for because I thought it was going to be some academic study program for parents. It was not. It was a courageous conversation about race, and it's the first time in my adult life that I ever had a courageous conversation about race. And it brought together parents at the school from all different ethnicities for 6 weeks. And the goal at the school level was to bridge the achievement gap in the school. And Soyini and I had coffee over Zoom because we're both really busy. And so we never get to see each other. So she's like, now that we're home and we can't be busy, we got to have coffee over Zoom. And we were talking about study circles and how transformative it was for me, to the point that I still have every piece of paper they gave me from that class. And so Yini and I decided that we want to keep that community conversation going. And so we've set up a community Facebook group, separate, but on the under the umbrella of the RDU on Stage, and we're going to launch our own version of study circles. So Yini was a instructor and moderator with the study circles program, so she's used to having these kinds of conversations, much more so than I am. And it is something we're going to launch, and I really hope people in this show and people in our community will join Soyini and I for this program, because I think when we start talking to each other, we start learning that we have much more in common than we're different. And that's what I loved so much about this program. So I don't know exactly when it's going to launch. Natasha, I know you signed up. Natasha's like, count me in, and she's already. But anybody who's out there, anybody who watches this video on Facebook or YouTube, if this is something you're interested in participating in, it is challenging. I'm not going to say these conversations are easy, but it was a transformative experience for me. And we just need to keep talking, right? We're pretty
already on
divided.
Facebook. We find it's already on
Facebook. The group is on Facebook. We have not actually launched the conversations yet. So Yini, I have the curriculum materials, so I have to send her the curriculum, but it's called Straight Talk with Soyini and Lauren. So if you want to join them on, never mind, you are going to join. I'll just sign you up in the group. Because you need to
be. Lauren.
Oh, good, Joy. I'm so happy. And, you know, like, I think these conversations are important. That's why I love plays like this. I love plays that challenge me and the community to think and educate ourselves and be very aware, especially in this political climate that feels so divisive. So that's what I'm, not to get on my political high horse, but we need to come together and we need to remember in November what's happening. So
get out there and vote.
That's it. I'm good. Tim is crying and he says he loves us all. So we love him.
Love you too, Tim.
Yes, love all of you guys. Thank you so much for doing this, Lauren, and having us on here and allowed us to have these conversations and to cut up as well and allow us to be able to see each other. Even though we did hang out like right before everything started. So.
And everyone that's watching this that isn't already in theater, remember, you are home, and if you're not watching this, you're probably watching something on TV. So that means you are watching actors. So that means when everything opens back up, go to the theater, because that means you like actors, because you're having to watch TV because you have nothing else to do. So you like TV, you like actors, you like people acting. So come to theater and watch people act locally, because you know us. You see us on the street. You see us in Walmart. Just stay 6 feet away. Cover your...
And he's not acting right now.
Gloves on your hand. Stay 6 feet away from me.
Lauren, again, thank you so much. We can't let Juan loose.
Mute him, please. Mute him.
For watching.
Lauren.
Tomorrow, Tim Locklear will be interviewing Patrick Torres. Tim is the managing artistic director of Interact. Patrick is the artistic director at Raleigh Little Theater. So Tim is saying, bless him, Lord.
It's like, you better end this before he comes back. End it before he comes back.
Anyway, thank you guys, and thank you everyone on YouTube for watching.
I warned you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Good night, everybody.